Joel, how's the back feeling today?
Improvement from last week for sure. I'm a lot better place. Usually it's like a week before I can get to like normal-ish. So I'm at that weak point. So it's feeling better for sure.
When you have that, do you feel it during the game, or is it like the next day when it really starts sparking?
Both. It's
Okay.
more. It takes time to get more. Like waking up in the morning. That's why people were like, "Oh, getting out of his car." And so like that part of the day is the worst part of the day, and then I just don't sit down or lay down for the rest of the day. And then by the end of the day, it's like, all right, I'm able to do some stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really getting in the stance and like you feel it, and you feel kind of the lack of mobility, but like the spasm pain part isn't there till probably the next morning.
Okay.
So
Did
even
you have
after the game, or like during the game, like as it goes on, do you feel loose, or is it?
Yeah, you loosen up as the game goes on. It's still like a thought. Like every play, you're like, for me, it's like I don't want to trigger the spasms again. So it's like getting in your stance, and making sure you're in a comfort-ish position. Like there's definitely a lack of mobility. But as long as we keep the spasms from like really going on game day, then usually we're okay.
How do you play a football game without making it worse?
You don't. I mean, the next morning is tough. You know what I mean? Like it definitely gets a little bit, but it's. I think it's more muscle, like arthritic, like than actual like different damage. So the doc, we talked it through, and the docs were like, yeah, it's not gonna get significantly worse in the moment.
Joel, the offense is averaging 15 points a game. Is it as bad as it sounds?
No, it's not where we want to be. And we'd obviously want to help our defense and special teams out a little bit there, score some more points. I wouldn't say we're as bad as we want, but we do want to improve.
Joel, now that you've had a couple games here, especially this last game, a heavier workload with Quinshon, what have you kind of seen from him as a runner?
Yeah, he's good. He makes some good cuts. He, runs hard, breaks tackles. Has I think flashed some big playability. But no, he's a good running back, and we're excited to keep getting him touches.
Joe, when you look at Aiden and Hamid and those guys on this defense and just how aggressive and physical they are, what are you guys having to report to? And do they move them inside sometime, move them around? Or?
Yeah, they're a good defense. I think they take after their head coach. They want to be a physical, like competitive group, and they show you a bunch of different looks. I know a couple of their inside guys have been banged up, but like you said, their edges kind of line up, kind of like Parsons, like everywhere he kind of wants to be, and does those things. But we have a lot of respect for what they did, and I mean they got Lamar down 7 times, which is hard to do. You don't see very many teams. They did a good job spying him. I don't know if they're going to spy Joe quite as much as they spied Lamar, but no, they have a good plan and they play hard and physical. We have to match that intensity for sure.
Joel, the impact of your current tackle situation, losing the line for the year, Jack is banked up with the elbow, not sure if he's going to go. Just how have you guys been able to compensate for that and just the impact on you, not knowing who's going to be next to you on Sunday?
Yeah, it's tough. You obviously wish you had your first group out there as much as possible. I think, Cornelius Lucas has shown that he can play right and left tackle, which gives us kind of a piece that they can move around when you don't know who's really going to get out there. KT stepped up this last game and played, and he's a young guy that's developing. We've obviously brought in a few guys, practice squad and signed a guy to the roster last week to just try and give us options at the position. It's not easy, but that's why you practice. That's why we do the walkthroughs. That's why you have coaches. You got to try and get these guys ready, but it's obviously not ideal to have your third and fourth tackle in week 4. But I think the guys that are in there have worked and produced, and I think we're gonna try and find a game plan that suits our abilities up front.
How do you avoid trying to overcompensate for have somebody different out there, especially when you're going up against a guy like Aiden or Mike or something?
Yeah, we try and have a game plan anyway, like where chips are coming in, the slides going that way. You have to keep your fundamentals right because there's times where it's like, oh, we're over. I think you've seen it, with Miles at some point. Teams are sending 3 or 4 guys his way, and then the other guys, Malik and company, are taking advantage of it. So it's a balance. Like obviously, their best players are their best players for a reason, and we want to try and slow those guys down. But the other guys have to, be fundamentally sound and handle their business as well.
Joe, I don't know if you remember 2023 season, you guys beat undefeated 49ers. They were 5-0. And then you went on to win 4 out of the next 5. Do you believe an early win can change a season?
Yeah. I mean, anytime you can get a win and you can try and put a little, some momentum in your season. First game of the season we lose by a point. Second game we had too many turnovers to really compete late in the game, and then that game it's you win that game. So like, in my mind, we've played with all 3 teams that we've played against so far, and a couple of those teams are Super Bowl aspirations. All 3 really when Joe Burrow was healthy, and so I think you look at it, week by week, but I think we're in a good spot, and we can compete with anybody if we play our game and if the offense keeps evolving. I like where we're at.
Speaking of things you guys see with Miles, have you ever seen a tackle scream at his quarterback to run mid-play like in that viral clip?
The lookout block, right? Like you look out and you're, look out. He's gonna hit you. Like throw the ball. You definitely think it if you're an offensive lineman, but hearing it on the mic up was. And we've all been there, right? Like you don't ever be the guy having to block that guy. I'm glad Miles is on our team.
Joe, when
Joe,
you
how
look
big?
at-
Go ahead.
well, going back to the offensive line, the continuity, but you, Wyatt, and Ethan, like how important is that part of this as you kind of work through the tackle situation, especially because you guys have played together for so long?
Yeah, we're trying to be solid for the team. Keep the pocket firm so the tackles maybe we don't have to get to 9 or 10 yards. We can turn the corner at, the pocket can be at 7 or 8 yards. But it's good. We need to know our assignments and make sure we're doing our job so the tackles can be in a good spot. But I trust Ethan and Wyatt. Like I played a lot of football next to those guys, so it's good to have the middle 3 in there.
How bad do you feel for DeWan, and does it make it worse that it's a low block that probably shouldn't have flagged?
Yeah, he's had a couple tough injuries, and I saw it live and I was like, you can't do that. And then you rewatch the replay and it looks even worse. I know the guy kind of lost his footing, but DeWan's the biggest guy on the field, so like when someone cuts him down, you kind of see it, and that's always been a point of emphasis the last few years. So it's frustrating. I know DeWan's gonna get his knee taken care of, and we're thinking about it, man. It stinks. The guy put in a lot of work this offseason. He's really trying to develop and play, and those injuries are tough.
Did you say something to the official? Like, how do you miss that?
Well,
Did you get any kind of answer?
I think Wyatt was discussing it with him as I walked over there, and I was like, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said something. Yeah, we try and tell him, but at that point, it's like past the they can't throw a flag anymore. You'd think like a play like that, they have these reviews and stuff like that. They can just be like, oh yeah, you cut him low, like here's a flag, but they have not developed that yet.
They say there's a lot of sloppy football played in September. I imagine that a position group where the continuity is a big deal, that matters to you guys. When do you feel like, how many games in before you feel like you have a baseline for what you guys?
Yeah, I mean, you hope it's as early as possible, but like you said, we've rotated a few guys in there now, so we're still getting the feel, but we have to play our best to give us a chance to beat these teams that we're going against. So, the sooner the better.
Joel, the Lions are obviously very aggressive on 4th down. Kevin's traditionally been pretty aggressive on 4th down. As an offense, I know you don't want to get to 4th down, but as an offense, like, what does that do for you if you know your coach will give you that chance?
Yeah, I think I've learned with Coach Stefanski, like, anytime we're, near the 50 or past, it's like I'm not sprinting off the field unless it's, dire situation. Like, he has a chance, we're going for it, and I know them do. But it's really the culture of your team. Like, we understand we're going for it. We trust our defense if something doesn't happen to step up and make a play. And I think stealing those possessions and finding ways to score is the future and what the analytics and stuff tell teams to do. So, I'm all for it.
What does Huntington bring to the short yardage formations?
Yeah, he's big, strong, fast guy. I think we've been pretty successful in short yardage so far this year. But he's good. He gives us a mobile, big blocking guy that can help us push the pile forward.
Can you tell that he used to play fullback?
I asked him about that, and he said he had in the past. He's a all D lineman and stuff, but he's built like a big fullback, and I think early in camp when we saw him out there, I saw him playing D line. I'm like, all right, this guy's got some pretty good hands. He's strong. He's big. So
Not like throwing the fridge out there.
right. But he's agile. He's good. He's done a lot for us. Thank you.